This unsanctioned gathering is a direct violation of HOA bylaws, Section 3, subsection A.
You can't be serious. We are legally permitted to use our property.
The night everything snapped, I was on my own porch, music low, cold air on my arms, when I saw blue and red lights flash against my window and smelled wet asphalt and burned coffee from the cop's travel mug. It was 9:00 p.m. on May 3, 2024. We had 4 friends, some lemonade, and fairy lights. That was it. But there she was, Linda, our HOA president, storming up in her stiff blazer, waving a clipboard. She hissed at the officer that my porch party was an unauthorized gathering and a safety hazard. He looked embarrassed but still wrote me a violation slip as she smirked. By the time he drove off, she had already taped a bright orange HOA ticket to my front door, right over my welcome sign, like a scarlet letter. The next morning, I woke up to find not 1 but 3 more tickets shoved into my mailbox, all for the same night. Noise. Improper porch use. Unauthorized decor. Each one threatened a fine of $50 and possible legal action. Over the next week, 2 more arrived for continuing non-compliance even though my porch was dark and silent. That's how I ended up living the story I now call HOA ticketed my porch party 6 times, then I filed the title search. I went to the next HOA meeting in the stuffy clubhouse, the air smelling like old coffee and copier toner, and tried to talk. I told the board the tickets were stacked for one tiny party that ended by 10:00 p.m. They stared at their papers. Linda just smiled and tapped her pen like I was a bug on glass. I tried catching neighbors outside by the mailboxes. They glanced around like someone might be watching. One whispered that Linda had already warned the block I was a troublemaker and that I had police visits. Timeline item 1 April 5 at 4:27 a.m. False trespass call. That was the night an officer knocked on my door because someone claimed I was snooping in backyards. I showed him my phone alarm log from that night. I had been asleep. He apologized and left. Now I knew who made that call. Still, every time I tried to reason with the board, they hid behind rules. One guy read from a binder in a flat voice, saying porch gatherings were subject to board discretion. No appeal. No hearing. Just pay. My hands shook with anger, but my voice stayed calm as I said I would use every proper channel to fight this. The line in the sand came when I got a letter saying if I did not pay all 6 fines, a lien could be placed on my home. I sat at my kitchen table, the smell of reheated pizza in the air, and felt the panic rise and then harden into something sharp. If they were going to threaten my house, I was going to learn everything about theirs. I started small. I reread every rule, every email, every notice they had ever sent. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. I noticed something odd. All the ticket language said violation of HOA porch common area easement. But my porch was poured concrete attached to my house. That word easement bugged me. So I drove to the county records office, that quiet building that always smells like dust and copier ink, and asked the clerk for a full title search on our subdivision and on my lot. When the clerk came back, she dropped a thick folder on the counter. The file landed with 63 pages. Plat maps. Old deeds. Recorded covenants. I sat at a little wooden table and flipped through, my heart pounding. And there it was. The HOA's control stopped at the sidewalk. My porch and steps were fully on my private lot, not in any common area easement at all. Even better, an old document showed the street in front was still city property, never turned over to the HOA like Linda always bragged. They had no legal authority to ticket people for gatherings on porches or on the public street. The clerk pointed to a line and said gently, they can make rules, but they can't break the recorded deed. On the drive home, my whole plan formed. I was not going to scream. I was going to show receipts. I filed a formal complaint with the city code office and attached copies of the title documents. I also reported the pattern of calls and tickets to the police non-emergency line. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. A detective called me back 2 days later and asked for details. I read him my little list. Timeline item 1 April 5 at 4:27 a.m. False trespass call. Timeline item 2 May 3 at 9:00 p.m. Noise complaint for a quiet porch. Timeline item 3 May 4 at 15 p.m. loitering report when my cousin dropped off cookies. Then came the fun part. The city council scheduled a public hearing on HOA overreach. I let a couple of trusted neighbors know. Word spread faster than I expected. When the night came, phones were out, cameras ready. Even the cop from the first night sat in the back, arms crossed. Linda walked into that council room like she owned the building, hair sprayed stiff, nails clicking on her folder. She started her speech about how our community standards were under attack by one problem resident. The council chair stopped her and asked if the HOA had any recorded authority over private porches or the city street. She said of course and held up her rules binder. That's when the city attorney put down a stack of papers next to her. The microphone picked up the thump. Everyone leaned in. He said calmly that he had reviewed the county records and that the HOA's claim over porches and the street was not supported anywhere in the deeds. A copy of my title search slid onto the projector screen. I watched Linda's face drain of color on the big screen while people in the chairs started whispering and laughing. Then the police detective spoke. He said there had been multiple low-level false or exaggerated reports linked to one caller from our HOA leadership, including the April trespass and the porch party. He did not say her name, but every head turned to Linda. He explained that wasting police time for personal vendettas could lead to charges and fines. The council voted that night to send a formal warning to the HOA and to bar them from enforcing any rule not actually backed by the recorded covenants. They also recommended a full vote by homeowners to remove board members who had abused their power. Phones were up, recording every second. By the time I got home, a neighbor's video of the meeting was already on our town Facebook group, with comments like "Linda got caught and leave that porch alone." In the weeks after, the orange tickets disappeared from doors. The HOA quietly sent out a letter saying all porch-related fines from the last 12 months were void and that anyone who had paid would receive a refund check. A month later, there was a special election. Linda lost her seat by 32 votes and had to sit in a folding chair like everyone else while the new board promised open meetings and no more fake emergencies. One of the neighbors who had been too scared to talk before knocked on my door with a plate of brownies and said, in a small voice, "Thank you for standing up." Now when I sit on my porch at sunset, music low, cold air on my arms, it finally feels like home again, not a battlefield. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.